Everyone. The webinar will begin shortly and will be recorded. We invite you to join us on social media, on Facebook following us at Campaign for GLR, on Twitter at Reading by Third, and on LinkedIn at Campaign for GLR. We also invite you to use the hashtag Learning Tuesdays to share any thoughts you may have during the conversation, and we'll be sure to retweet. Okay, welcome again, everyone, to the webinar. My name is Sierra Sanchez, and I'll be primarily behind the scenes helping to produce this conversation. I have just a few housekeeping details before we get started. First, we would love for you to introduce yourself in the chat box at the bottom of the screen. We also encourage you to post any questions in the Q&A box. We'll be dedicating the last portion of the conversation to respond to your questions. This webinar is also being recorded and live streamed on Facebook Live. A link to the recording, as well as any resources and slides that you see shared as links in the chat, will be compiled and shared in a follow-up email to all webinar registrants. We'll also be posting a brief on-screen evaluation during Q&A and highly encourage you to respond. Lastly, I would just like to call your attention to our upcoming GLR Learning Tuesdays webinars. Next week, we have an exciting doubleheader, starting with a Crucible of Practice salon focusing on Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, followed by a session on engaging every student and building community connections to expand OST access. The following week, October 18th, we'll have another exciting doubleheader. First, a funder-to-funder conversation on the local and statewide GLR efforts, followed by a session co-sponsored by Attendance Works at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Information and registration for all of these sessions will be posted in the chat box, and we hope you can join us now. Joining you now is Elizabeth Sierry with Foundations, Inc., and I hope you enjoy the webinar.
Thanks, Sierra. I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for joining us for today's GLR Learning Tuesdays webinar, Getting Results with REACH, a Model for Successful Learning Recovery. As Sierra said, my name is Elizabeth Sierry. I'm the Executive Director of Communications and Development at Foundations, Inc. We are a national education nonprofit that focuses on capacity building and professional learning for educators, both during the school day and beyond school hours. Today, our panelists are going to share an innovative approach to learning loss recovery. The Foundation's REACH model was developed in response to the disrupted learning that students across the country experienced during the pandemic. REACH uses targeted academic acceleration and intervention approaches for reading and math that integrates whole child learning experiences into the program design. This session will provide a deep dive into the REACH model's structure, history, implementation, and results. But first, I am honored to introduce our moderator for today, MaryEllen Gorodetzer. MaryEllen is the Chief Program and Innovation Officer at Foundations, Inc. Her team provides strategic planning support for educational programs and initiatives, as well as direct support for school services. MaryEllen draws on her decades of experience as both a principal and superintendent to spearhead this work to increase educator capacity and improve outcomes for all students. MaryEllen holds a doctorate in educational administration from Widener University, as well as a dual master's degree in speech pathology and audiology from Hahnemann University, and a bachelor's degree in speech pathology and education from East Stroudsburg University. So welcome, MaryEllen. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks so much, Elizabeth, for the introduction, and thanks to the Campaign for Grade Level Reading for providing us this opportunity to share information about the REACH program. You know, early in the pandemic, it was clear that the disruption in instruction was going to cause great challenges for all children. We knew that the learning inequities that were in place before COVID-19 would be magnified by school closure-related learning losses. And we can only assume, and the data has proven this to be true, that the most vulnerable students would fall further and further behind. In an effort to address this, our Foundations team developed a model using the most current research regarding evidence-based practices to close learning gaps. And we decided to focus on elementary-aged children since they were the most notably affected by the loss of in-school learning. REACH was designed to ensure that students' social emotional well-being, as well as their literacy and math skills, would be effectively addressed by this targeted academic acceleration and intervention program. We also focused on engaging students in enjoyable learning experiences and connecting them with community programs and partners with enrichment experiences, really making the learning fun. Thanks to our CEO, Rhonda Lauer, we had established a terrific partnership with Dr. Eric Becoats, Superintendent of the William Penn School District. And through this partnership, we successfully implemented the model and saw that the program had statistically significant impact on the students we served. Today, I have the pleasure to be joined asynchronously by Dr. Eric Becoats, the Superintendent of Schools at William Penn School District, and live by Shanika Peck and Ozzie Wright, both of Foundations, Inc. Additionally, as we begin our conversations today, I have the true pleasure of introducing my longtime colleague, Dr. Liz McKeaney. Liz McKeaney is the Director of Professional Learning at Foundations, Inc. and provides leadership and support to program development in the areas of evaluation, instruction, assessment, and professional development. And she played a significant role in the design and implementation of the REACH program. Liz holds a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of Pennsylvania. Liz, can you share some details about the results of the REACH program?
Sure. Thank you so much, Dr. Gorodetzer, and welcome everyone. If we could just move to the next slide. Actually, before diving right into sharing the results, just wanted to provide our audience with a little bit of background. There were approximately 60 students from the William Penn School District, students entering 1st through 5th grade in the Foundations REACH summer program. All these students were assessed in both reading and mathematics at the beginning and the end of the program. An analysis of that data was conducted by a professor of education at the Graduate School of Education at the University of Pennsylvania. Actually, a former professor of mine did the statistical analyses for us. So what you're looking at right now, the bar graph on your screen, it summarizes the reading results of that analysis. If I can bring your attention to take a look at the x-axis or the horizontal line at the bottom, you can see that that presents the grade levels of the students in the program. If you look at the y-axis or the vertical line, this part of the graph shows the scale that was used.
No, I'm sorry, I'm in the middle of a webinar.
Shows the scale that was used to assess students' instructional reading level. As you'll note, if you take a look at that, a score of 1, a student scoring a 1 on the pre or post assessment would be considered performing below grade level. A score of 2 would mean that the student is approaching grade level. A score of 3 means that the students were at grade level. And a score of 4, the student would be considered above grade level. If you take a look at the blue graphs on this particular chart, it indicates students' reading performance. The dark blue bar shows the average student's instructional level when they entered the REACH program. That would be, we assessed them pretty much in the first week of the program, actually the first 2 days. The light blue bar shows the post levels when students left the program after about 5 weeks. If I could just bring your attention, and we're going to just talk the final results. If we move over to the right, it's so exciting. If you take a look at the analysis comparing the pre and post test scores on the reading assessment at the right part of this graph, you see, and it was noted that the student gains were highly statistically significant across all grade levels. If you take a look at the, if you can see the students started the REACH program really below and approaching grade level, and that's what that 1.46, that was their instructional level where they started. And if you take a look at the light blue bar, you can see that students ended the program very close to grade level at a 2.71. This pattern of starting below grade level in reading and ending close to grade level was evident across all grades. So this is terrific. These are terrific results, far more than we really expected in reading. If we move to the next slide, what you see on the next slide, this bar graph shows the pre and post results of the mathematics evaluation of the William Penn School District students. Again, the x-axis on the chart represents the entering grade levels of the students that were tested. If you take a look at the y-axis, this is a little bit different. This axis shows the percent of items students scored correctly on the math test. Again, if you take a look at the dark blue bar, I want to bring you over to the right because this is all students' results. You'll note that students on average had 50% of the math items correct when they began the program. At the end of the REACH program, students averaged 71% of the items they answered correctly. Again, this shows a statistically significant increase in performance in math by William Penn School Districts at the end of the REACH program. Again, we saw that this pattern was apparent in each of the grade levels, where students demonstrated statistically significant increases, in this case, in about 20 percentage points in their mathematics knowledge on the post-test relative to their performance prior to participating in REACH. Obviously, we're extremely proud of these results and are very hopeful. We're running a program again. Actually, we ran one this past summer at William Penn School District, and we're really hopeful that we'll be yielding similar results.
That's great, Liz. We were so pleased to get these results. Can you talk, though, a little bit about some of the critical components of the model and also the design and the research base of the model?
Sure. If we move to the program design, talk a little bit about that. I know Dr. Gorodetzer, you did mention what we really did at Foundations. We took a look at the current educational research and the studies, particularly on high quality summer learning programs, and really honed in or wanted to take a look at what programs benefit most low income or at-risk students. So if we move to the next slide, much of the research that we found was from the RAND study on the Wallace Foundation. So we pretty much designed the REACH program using those critical tenets. So what I have going on the slide that you're looking at now, these are pretty much the tenets that we used in designing the program. The most important, I think, was planning early, and the recommendation is no later than January. That didn't happen with all of our program as we were getting it together, but I strongly recommend that planning really does occur before spring break. But if planning can and design of the program can happen before January, that's just terrific. Another important aspect or critical aspect is developing clear, positive message about the goals of the program and the culture. A lot of times, folks go in and, just want an academic program. We thought, we asked the question with our partner school, William Penn, what do you want to focus on? Why do you want to focus on that? And how could we help you design a program that's personalized for you, your students, and your school? And that's how we, focused on the mathematics and the reading. And we also found it very important to have some community connections and some STEM-related activities in their program. Another recommendation for research, and this is critically important, that the programs in the summer run at least 5 to 6 weeks and have a minimum of 3 to 4 hours of academics each day. And we really we believe that our findings are because we absolutely follow this critical criteria. Another very important aspect is establishing a firm enrollment deadline and clear attendance policy for students. And that is making sure that, when you're sharing the program with parents, the parents understand the importance of attendance and having those policies and communicating with parents and with the teachers in terms of those expectations. Especially for those schools using federal funding to run these programs. We used a lot of ESSER funds for post-COVID. It's critically important that the curricular materials that are selected are evidence-based. ESSER has a wonderful list, and there are lists on the research-based website showing what curricular resources are aligned with evidence-based research. We also, as Dr. Gorodetzer pointed out, really implementing a strategic and personalized approach, partnering with our schools and really understanding where their students' needs were, taking a look at their data, having conversations about how we can design that to personalize the program for our partner school. Another key aspect is hiring teachers who have experience, and all of you know this participating in this webinar, that have subject matter and grade level experience. Especially, we know how critically important those early literacy skills are, and having teachers with that level of knowledge to support students. Another key aspect is providing professional development before the program so that teachers really understand the curriculum materials you'll be using, how to provide teacher-directed small group instruction, and how to analyze their data, use their data, formative checks in planning. And that was really a critical key component of the REACH and the design of the REACH program. If we move to the next slide, I'm going to just take you through, just share some of our structures and how some of the programs we ran in the 2021 and actually this past summer. We ran a full day program at William Penn School District, and that program was for 7 hours. We also ran a half-day program at another one of our partner schools, and that was 4 hours. The program ran from June 28th to July 28th. That is giving our classroom teachers, a week off before they jumped right into a summer program. We thought that was critically important. And it also provided us with time for professional development. Actually, we really worked with William Penn to get the teachers to provide professional development before teachers ended the school year and left. And then they had that week off. And then we began the program. The program ran 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. We also partnered with another school throughout the school year who wanted to run a REACH program, design a REACH program as an after-school model, and we did that as well. We didn't have all the components and aspects, but we certainly focused on the academics, the enrichment, and the community connections in that program. That program ran 2.5 hours after school from October to May. Monday through Thursday, and we ran 2 after school, and the second after school ran on 2 days, Tuesdays and Thursdays. What the next slide shares is just an example of a schedule. This would be an after school schedule. Always thought it was very, very important that our students began. Obviously, they're tired, and we know children are always hungry. So we made sure that they had a snack, had something to eat, were settled. And another critical aspect of all of our REACH programs, whether it was after school or during the summer, is that we had a social emotional lesson. It started with that social emotional well-being. Who am I to, that building self-confidence, building relationships with their teachers, relationships with their peers every day. And we had provided teachers with scripted lessons so that they didn't have to design these. We really handed the lessons to the teachers, and that was very, very successful. Students loved it, and parents loved that aspect. The second part was an academic block. For the after-school program, the focus was on reading and literacy. So the academic block was on literacy. And after that particular instructional block, students moved, and this is where really, the critically important, I think, component where that teacher-directed small group instruction occurred. Students were working through, we'd had them take a look at the data daily, where were students and what were their skills, and teachers would pull small groups of students, no more than 4 students in a group, really honing in on focusing on the skills that they needed, the skill gaps, providing the intervention, providing and accelerating, providing some materials, obviously, at grade levels, because it's very important that our kids were accessing the grade level content. And the close of the day was lots of fun, community visits here, movement activity, physical education, just fun. They had some partners with a local yoga center came, and it just was a lot of fun. So we reached out and worked with our partner schools to find out who in the community would come to the school post-COVID, not too much. There wasn't a lot of going out to other places, but we brought community into the schools and had lots of fun with that. And then we had a closure activity. If we move to the next schedule, these are what the full day schedule. This is actually a full day schedule. You could see the morning schedule ran pretty similarly to the after school, only during the full day, we had 2 academic blocks here built in. That would be literacy, reading academic block, and mathematics block. And then you see in the afternoon, we had our small group instruction, STEM and community visits, an intervention enrichment activity, and the movement enclosure. I think do I have one more? I'm not sure. Okay.
So Liz, let me ask you a question. You were so involved in the development of all of the programs, and as Liz is alluding to, we have run this program in many sites since its inception with the William Penn School District. Can you talk a little bit about the role of the site coordinator in the program?
Absolutely. Forgot to mention that, along with hiring the teachers at Foundations, we hired a site coordinator for the program. And the site coordinator really took care of the scheduling, the logistics, helped students in the planning, took a look at the data, the analysis, the grouping of students. So that person really led not only the logistics, the scheduling of the program, the site coordinator met the parents, the teachers, got the students into the classrooms, took care of attendance, took care of data, and really helped the teachers because, we know teachers worked all day, they're very stressed. They've taught, many lessons all day. So the site coordinator actually helped the REACH instructors prepare all the curricular materials, all the resources, provided support and direction with a grouping of students. If there were any, challenges, students, had any challenges or were, behaviorally, the site coordinator helped out with that. Really critically important to the program, having a site coordinator overseeing all aspects of the REACH program.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks for all of the detail. And we'll be coming back to Liz if anybody, as we go through the Q&A, to answer any questions people have about specific questions about the program itself. But I'd like to also now kind of asynchronously introduce you to, again, a person very important to our program development, Dr. Eric Becoats. Eric Becoats is the superintendent of schools in the William Penn School District, and he has been there since June 2020. He spent more than 28 years of experience, had more than 28 years of experience in education, including assistant superintendent in the School District of Philadelphia. Dr. Becoats earned a doctorate in educational leadership from the University of North Carolina, a master's degree in finance from Johns Hopkins University, and a bachelor's degree in accounting from Lincoln University. Dr. Becoats directed and led the development of the William Penn School District strategic plan, focused on improving outcomes for all students. As we mentioned, Dr. Becoats could not be with us today, but we recorded his answers to some of our questions. And we started by asking him to share some details about the district demographics, location, and the communities that are served in the William Penn School District.
Sure. The William Penn School District is located in the southwest portion of Pennsylvania, right outside of Philadelphia. I would say we are a urban suburban district. We have 11 schools, 8 elementary. We have and that they serve grades K through 6. We have 1 middle school which serve grades 7 and 8. We have a 9th grade academy, and then we have our high school building which serves grades 10 through 12. We serve approximately 5,000 students in grades K through 12. Our population is about 88% African American, about 4% white. The remaining population, I would say, are American Indian or have identified themselves as 2 or more races. We are probably about 70%, I would say, economically disadvantaged. and we serve 6 boroughs. And so we are the only district that serves that number of boroughs. So we serve Alden, we serve Cowan, we serve Darby, we serve East Lansdowne, and Yeadon. So those are the 6 boroughs that we support.
So as you can imagine, lots of challenges in the superintendency when he came in to be, and he's done an amazing job, and we love partnering with him. We also asked him about his motivation for developing out-of-school time programs to support learning recovery and his thoughts about the success of this work.
So, it was obvious to us that students would need additional support given the pandemic. And one of the things we talked a lot about, and when I say we, it was the cabinet level, senior cabinet level. We also had conversations with teachers, with principals. We wanted to provide students with an opportunity to support their continued learning. We were, as you are probably well aware, most districts received ESSER money. And so some of the money had to be for summer enrichment or dealing with the summer loss, if you will. And so one of the things we wanted to do was we wanted to develop a program that would allow students to learn, but also allow students to have some fun, given the fact that they were in homes, they could not come out, you had to wear masks. So we were trying to identify, but we also wanted to really focus on English, mathematics, science, let students do some hands-on types of activities, also explore. So as we began to develop what we wanted to put into place, we said, hey, who could we partner with? We are a small district. We don't have a significant number of resources. So my thought was, let's partner with someone who is an expert in this area, someone who has a program that basically we would review, assess. If it's something that we felt as though would meet our students' need, then we would partner with that individual. So we would provide, if you will, the building, we would provide the students. We also could provide the teachers, and we wanted to give our teachers the opportunity to participate in the program. So we offered them the opportunity. So we provided some of the teachers, and this was free for our students. The only thing families needed to do was to get the students to the location. So we began having conversations with foundations. We looked at the program that they had in place. We had various conversations around what does the model look like. I knew I wanted to make sure that it would be small in nature, meaning that I did not want class sizes to be too large. So I'm thinking anywhere from maybe 12 to 14 or 12 to 16 to 1. I also was thinking, wouldn't it be great to also have an instructional assistant or an aide in the room? And so that was the model that we developed, because my goal was to ensure that students were getting as much as possible one-on-one attention. And so in conversations with foundations, we were able to basically develop, in my mind, what a summer enrichment program would be. And so it was their model, tweaked, maybe their being foundation's model, maybe tweaked a little bit to support the needs of this community. And so we are a small community, and we value community partners coming to the table, working with us to support our children. So I felt as though that this was a win-win for all. And then, I hope I'm not going too far, but in the first year that we implemented the program, it definitely was a win-win. Some of the data came back and it showed that our students did make progress, that our students grew. I've met with some families who participated in the program, and they felt as though it was a rewarding program. They liked the flexibility. They liked that their children were having fun. They liked the exploring that students were able to do. And students also got an opportunity to see things that they may not normally see in their neighborhood, or be introduced to various types of things that are more cultural and on the art side of things. So overall, I think it was a win-win, and it was a great opportunity not only for our students but for our families.
Next, we asked Eric to share his thoughts about the components of the REACH program, as well as his thoughts about the effectiveness of the program.
I think what helped was that students did not actually think that they were going to school. It didn't feel like school. It felt fun. I think it also, in some instances, students knew some of the adults, so there was some level of familiarity with who was in my room, and I think the smallness also helped. So students felt as though that, this is really about me. I have this teacher and she's giving me her undivided attention. So I think those two pieces, and I also think the piece that was really key for me was the fun piece, right? So students can have fun and they don't even realize that they're learning. And I think when you can create an environment and an atmosphere that's like that, I think you have a win-win. And so students get up and they're eager to go to summer enrichment because it's fun. And they're learning. So the structure of the day I thought was very, very important. So in the morning, you're more on the academic side. In the afternoon, you're more on the arts-based side, right? And the fun side. So having that type of schedule every day definitely afforded students the opportunity to do things that were both fun and academically, I'll just say, invigorating or challenging. And I also think the staff matters, the people that you hire. I think it's very, very important for students to feel like they are appreciated, valued, that the adults want you to be here and that we're here to help you succeed and we want you to be successful. So students know that and students realize that and students can articulate that to me even as young as an elementary age student. So I think that was another aspect of the program that definitely mattered.
I just wanted to note that Dr. Becoats made sure that it was his staff that were involved in the program, and he did a great job in recruiting his teachers, his assistants. It was well staffed. We had a nurse in the building, security, supports, food services. He did a fabulous job in assisting us to have the staff needed to run the program. And again, he was talking about the quality of staff, and our experience was they were top notch. They were terrific to work with and terrific to partner with. And on that note, the final question we did ask him about were his thoughts about the partnership between William Penn and foundations.
So I would say that we played the role of a true partner, and that was on both ends, right? So neither entity came to the table, I would say, demanding or saying it has to be this way or that way. The question became, what is your goal, right? So when I sat and I talked, I believe Rhonda Lauer was the first person who introduced me to MaryEllen, if I'm not mistaken. We talked about what is it that you want to do? What is it that you want to achieve? And then they took a step back and reflected and said, well, this is what we can provide. And so as we began to have conversations and bring other people into the conversation, we then started talking about, so what does the model look like? And the question was always asked, well, does that work for you? Does that work for William Penn? Are you sure this is what you want? This is what we would like. And so it was real easy. It was not a challenge at all in terms of working together. There is a high level of flexibility. And I think the goal from my perspective and in my experience is that our goal is your goal. right? So our goal, meaning the business, is the client's goal. And so help us understand, how do we help you reach your goal? And so when you work with an organization like that, you can only have success. And I think both organizations were very honest. And if there were challenges or things that need to be worked out, there was a willingness to sit down and work them out. But I will be truthfully honest, I can't think of any place or anywhere where there were challenges. It just really worked. And I think it worked because the goal of what we were trying to do was understood from day one. And I think when everyone has a focus on serving children and wanting children to grow, the work continues and the work gets done, because that's the focus. Everything else does not matter. And we're focused on the children.
And I can attest to everything Dr. Becoats said. They were great partners to work with. They were very accommodating. We did customize the program based on needs they had, always considering costs and cost factors. The first year, they were going to be rolling out an online and digital evidence-based mathematics tool. And so we incorporated that into the program. So their staff actually got early professional development on use of it before they went back for the school year. And also the children got exposure to this new learning tool, which turned out to be very successful as well. So we'll hear hopefully a little more from Dr. Becoats in a bit. But right now, I would like to introduce Shanika Peck, who is with us today. Shanika worked as a reading coach during the 2021-22 school year as the REACH program was implemented in an after-school program in a local charter school. Prior to joining Foundations, Shanika spent 8 years serving as a lead instructor, teacher, and intervention coordinator at an urban pre-K to 8 independent boarding school. Shanika received a BA in elementary education from Loyola University in Maryland and her MS in organizational development and leadership from St. Joe's University. Shanika, could you share how REACH was implemented at your school site and the impact you saw on the students?
Thank you so much for the introduction, MaryEllen. That was great. So, of course, I served as a reading coach in the after-school acceleration program. And just like what Liz discussed earlier, a lot of the things that we did for staff development was to make sure that they were aware of the different techniques in the literacy curriculum where they are able to implement explicit instruction that was literacy focused for students in whole group, explicit instruction, small group, and even one-on-one. And that's where I came in. We did do a couple of things with SEL, mindfulness, character development, and youth development as well. And then, of course, what was mentioned before, a lot of the materials and the professional learning, that included the script for a lot of these lessons, but we were also gifted with, the ability to be flexible with literacy and making it fun, right? So this is an after-school program. They spent all day learning and sitting in the classroom just to end up, in a literacy program where they can hear the kids down the hall running around and having fun. But that was not the case here. The students had a lot of fun with our literacy program when we implemented the REACH model. And so, students were split into teams based on their instructional reading level. And there they participated in a lot of literacy stations. So, they were either using technology based on the literacy curriculum. Teachers were implementing small or whole group activities with games, literacy focused games. And then we also turned some games that they would normally play with their family into literacy games. So we made it engaging and fun, all while maximizing their reading stamina so that can eventually help them out with their, reading homework, right? So the students began to see how much reading is involved with all the other subjects, right? So in terms of math homework, a lot of the students realize, well, if I don't work on these reading skills and strategies, it'll be hard for me to take care of my my math homework with word problems or prompts. We definitely saw a huge difference from the beginning of the program to the very end of students just realizing their own potential and what they can do. I had a couple of students just, look me in the face and say, I can't read this. And then by the end of the program, they're bringing books to me to read. And, they were excited about their achievement and really eager to learn more or want to do even better than they were before. And then in terms of our older students, they definitely gained a lot of confidence in how they read and applying some comprehension strategies just to, build that courage with reading amongst their peers. They were definitely advocating for themselves and letting us know what they can do and what we can do as teachers to help them out to get to that point. It was definitely clear that a lot of the students enjoyed being there, to the point where they were recruiting their friends to join us. So all of, their friends that were down the hall running around and, playing, they ended in our reading program, participating in a lot of the literacy instruction that, to us it was instruction, but for the kids, they're having fun with reading. So that was a great moment for me as the reading coach there. And so, a lot of the things we did there involved just empowering our students for the most part. And then, with the ongoing monitoring of their progress with the curriculum that was available to us, we use that to figure out what students really need that one-on-one instruction so that we can build their confidence in literacy. And of course, share that with not only their families when they are picked up at the end of the day, but also really partnering with the school day. We had plenty of times to, talk with their classroom teachers or their reading specialists during the day and talk about their progress and what are some things that we can work on in the program in addition to what was already being implemented. And, just to, name just a few of our significant progress. And I know this was brought up earlier in Liz's graph, but from our after school program, we've seen students across all grade levels, K through 4, gain at least 2 instructional reading levels. And the most significant gain being 7 reading levels. And of course, it didn't stop there, right? Students, they wanted to continue learning. They were celebrating almost every day on either effort or just once they meet that goal for that week early, they were celebrating and supporting each other, which was great. And I really think a lot of this couldn't have happened without, that small group instruction. I think that made the biggest difference in the program's success.
Thank you, Shanika. And I had the pleasure of visiting Shanika's school site a number of times and to watch the children walk into the room where she was going to do her small group instruction. They just lit up. They were so thrilled that she was there. They couldn't wait to sit down and work with her. You did an amazing job building those relationships and providing those students with, as you said, the courage to learn, the courage to try. So thanks for all you did, Shanika. It was wonderful.
Thank you, MaryEllen.
Right. Our final guest for today is Ozzie Wright. Ozzie has spent much of his life as a Philadelphia resident. He graduated from West Philadelphia High School, then served in the Army for 2 wars, and spent 30 years in the School District of Philadelphia as a teacher, athletic coach, and in a variety of administrative positions. Ozzie holds a master's degree from St. Joseph's University, an elementary and secondary principal cert from Cheney University, and a superintendent letter of eligibility from St. Joe's University. Ozzie, Shanika talked about the support that students experienced and how that impacted their learning. Did you see the same thing at the William Penn program? And if so, what do you think caused this level of engagement?
Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, MaryEllen, for the introduction. In the past, if I've gone into the programs, I've seen so much success. And we really alluded to the point, as Liz and Dr. Pico said, and other persons have said, and Shanika said, that the students were glad to be there. But one of the things that I attributed to is being in the district and actually seeing the climate of the district, and something that was the attendance of the students and the attendance of the staff members. Not only the teachers, but the security officers, the people who worked in the lunchrooms, the people who were custodial, everyone who pitched in and helped these students feel that they wanted to be in a place that was safe. They had programs that the persons who came from outside on particular days were just happy to be there. People still felt so engaged. Another thing that was really engaging were when the students approached the teachers or staff members, and they were able to speak, able to talk, and able to, as I said before, have fun and be in a safe place where they could learn, and a safe place where they could be successful, and a safe place where people really cared about them. Those were some of the things that I saw. And in addition, that our site coordinators, persons from our foundations organization, persons from the neighborhood who really were happy that we had a program or had programs in the school district, especially the William Penn School District, that was accessible and something that they really wanted to come back to next year, as well as have to attend it last year. That includes our staff members. Those were some of the things that I saw. The other part, and I'm going to just say this part, is that teachers and site leaders and other persons who visited our schools made sure that every child was given back to a parent in the afternoon, where our policies were in process. Every child was accounted for, every staff member. If something would happen, our site leaders were very competent and very successful in achieving that particular level as far as that success is concerned. That's why I love our programs.
Ozzie, let me ask you something too. And I don't think we mentioned this. This program in the summer of 21 was for many of the children who attended the program the first time they were back in school for a year and a half, or some of them had never been in school. So when you would greet the families when they would at arrival, can you share some thoughts about how the kids entered the program? Were they apprehensive? Were the parents anxious about them coming? Just what were your thoughts?
Well, one of the things were that a lot of the students who did attend the year before, you could count that they wanted to come back again this year. While walking through the neighborhoods, just not in the school area, while going through the neighborhoods, some parents said, well, how come we didn't know we had a program? And they were very interested in coming to the schools to find out exactly, how do I get my child into this program? What are the ages are, and what is the success level? And will they be happy to go back to the regular school year? So I felt that the parents were really into this, and we were really into it as well. So that's why we could not leave at the end of the school day, because when kids came out to the playground or the kids were being dismissed, there were other parents who wanted to know, how can we get our children involved in the program?
Thank you, Ozzie, so much for all you do for foundations.
Well, thank you, MaryEllen, and I thank everybody else, because I'm learning so much by being on the Zoom today.
Great. So we've had an opportunity to hear from each of our panelists, but before we begin our questions and answers for today, I want to provide each of our panelists share a final thought. As they do, we invite you, the audience, to share your questions in the Q&A box. Liz, do you have any final thoughts?
I do. Thank you, Dr. Gorodetzer. I can't emphasize enough the importance of early planning, partnering, planning, working very closely, as Dr. Becoats mentioned, with the school. What are their needs? What are teachers familiar with? What do they need in terms of professional development? So really establishing those goals, planning early. And I think we mentioned earlier the importance of having a site coordinator, someone to really oversee the logistics of the program, being there supporting teachers, supporting parents, and supporting students, to Mr. Wright's point. And I guess for us, it was critically important that we really worked with the teachers to analyze student data. You know, the program's short, it's not that long. We want to look at how well students are performing each and every day and making sure that those instructional groups are really focused on the students' needs as they enter the program the next day. I do see, Dr. Gorodetzer, there was a question in the chat box about evidence-based curriculum, what websites. I can absolutely attach that, you know, to the recording. But for those looking, we did take a look at various states. State Department, Pennsylvania State Department of Education did have evidence-based curriculum that was aligned to ESSER. So if you went into the ESSERs and those components and requirements, they offered some links on the Pennsylvania Department of Education's website. And I know that other states offer that information as well to make sure that the curriculum that you are selecting is aligned, in fact, and is evidence-based. There's another website, the Multi-Tiered System of Support, MTSS. That website also offers an incredible amount of resources, rubrics, and what that website offers is curriculum based on, you know, what is good for tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 instruction. So thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Thanks so much. We also asked Dr. Becoats to share his final thoughts on the REACH program with you, and we'll watch that video now.
What I would say is if you want to partner with an entity that is going to have children as the focus, and you want to see improvement in the area of literacy, strongly investigate and have a conversation with foundations. I think it's an entity that develops programming that suits the customer's need. And I believe the name of the program, which is, you know, REACH, it did what it said it was going to do. It's in the name. It's reaching our children. And so we've implemented the program for 2 years. I would strongly suggest that if you're listening to this, please consider the REACH program if you are serious about moving your students or growing your students and allowing your students to learn, but also have fun.
Well, we certainly thank Dr. Becoats for his kind words. And again, we partner with them for some additional learning recovery programs over the last year and again this year, and they're just wonderful partners. So thanks to Dr. Becoats and his whole team at William Penn School District. Shanika, do you have any final thoughts?
I do. I really want to emphasize the importance of establishing authentic and meaningful relationships, not just with your student and families, but also staff. As an OST program, we have a lot of staff who may be from different schools. Some are retired teachers. And so it's really important that we foster a relationship with school day staff so that we can continue to monitor this progress and celebrate. And of course, that takes a certain level of trust and vulnerability. So establishing that partnership and relationship from the beginning, middle to the very end.
Thank you, Shanika. Ozzie, any final thoughts?
Yeah, final thought would be that we mentioned the programs that we have after school and during the school day programs. I think those programs that we have were very successful, and that the persons who participated, whether it's zoos or whether it's the fire department, anything, should also acclimate the point that these kind of things happen as they were serving our students and staff as well in school districts. I would like to see them reach out a little bit more, not reach out, but just put it out there that that's what they do.
Thank you, Oz. Great point. Community connections were really a critical part of this whole thing. Again, coming out of the pandemic, children had not been
Right.
involved in the community activities or opportunities. And as Liz mentioned, we brought it to them because for the first year, a lot of places were still closed down. They would send people out, but their organizations had not fully opened. So we loved having those partners and having those folks come in. The kids loved that component of the program. So I want to thank everyone for taking time to be with us today. And we'd like to share one final video before we open up our Q&A session. The video is a snapshot of the REACH program. Thank you.
Coming out of the pandemic, we knew that all kids suffered learning loss. All kids needed to recover. We decided at Foundations to design the REACH model. It's a model that can be used anywhere. It can be used in classrooms throughout the country.
It's an acceleration program where we're just trying to fill the gaps for the learning loss that took place from the pandemic from 2020.
We wanted to make sure that students had the opportunity to be engaged in a fun and exciting summer opportunity. And what we were able to actually realize was that students did perform well. Families were engaged, families enjoyed the program, students enjoyed the program. The REACH program has surpassed our expectations, and we're looking forward to continuing this program.
We wanted to align school, after school, and summertime. We designed learning with projects, with STEM, while still making sure that we impacted reading and math.
We use a variety of online sources like Lexia, Dreambox.
They're excited about using Lexia. They're excited about using Dreambox. So I think the task is going to be for the adults to kind of make it excited for the rest of the day and to watch them being able to progress through that. I think it's going to be a great opportunity.
In the afternoon is much more kind of like a summer camp feel. The kids get a little outdoor time, some amazing STEM lessons with our STEM teacher, Eric Holland.
There's a lot less pressure than there is during the regular kind of school year. The kids are not afraid to learn and explore. It's learning by playing, learning by doing. There's a lot more hands-on activities. The kids are really actively engaged in what they're doing. They're having a good time, they have smiles on their faces, and they want to be here. It's focused on them and their ability to learn and see how far they can push themselves.
They get to, listen and, take their time. And it's good.
We wanted to partner with an organization that had some experience with implementing a successful summer program. And so REACH was the program, Foundations was the organization. And we were very, very pleased with the program overall.
Our kids showed statistically significant improvement in both reading and math, not only in the summer, but during the school year. What makes REACH successful is you, the educators and the after-school professionals who work every single day, who care every single day. You are the ones that make our kids the best that they can be.
Teachers are really nice. Don't come and help you. All of them are nice. They're great and they're awesome. They're the best teachers in the world.
We want to thank all of our panelists today, Dr. Gorodetzer, Dr. McKeaney, Ozzie Wright, Shanika Peck, and Dr. Eric Becoats for taking their time to share with us a little bit more about how the REACH model was implemented in the William Penn School District. We're now going to take some questions. You can use the Q&A that's at the bottom of your screen. You can continue to share your questions there, and we are going to try to ask as many as possible. One of the questions in the chat was about whether or not the summer program was open to all students. MaryEllen, did you want to address that?
Well, I'll speak specifically to the William Penn program, and that one actually they identified, as you heard Dr. Becoats mention, they serve 6 boroughs. and they have 8 elementary schools. So they actually targeted 4 of their feeder schools to the school where we ran the program. But we did serve all of the children from grades K to 3 in that program. It was open up to all of the children from all the families in 4 of the buildings in that at William Penn. They were running some other community programs that some parents could sign up for in the other 4 locations. Yeah, and in other programs, it was opened up to all the children. And another site that we started in 2021 and ran again this past summer, all children were, it was open to all children. So it really depends on, again, customizing the program for the district or school.
Did you want to add something, Liz?
Yeah, just a correction. The Summer Reach program in 2021, we had students entering 1st through entering 5th. And this past summer, the Dr. Becoats targeted students entering 1st through entering 3rd.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
I forgot that, Liz.
Another question was about transportation. So at the William Penn School District, was transportation provided during the summer? And if not, was there an accommodation made for students who couldn't attend because of lack of transportation?
The first year, there was a virtual option or opportunity for students who could not come. I don't recall, and Liz might remember, if we had any takers on that. Again, I think families so desperately wanted their children to come back. But as everyone knows, the shortage of bus drivers is so dramatic and difficult and so much of a problem that it wasn't just the cost factor, because of course transportation is very expensive. However, I think it was also the ability to recruit bus drivers, again, right at the coming out of the pandemic, to actually provide that service. So it was unfortunately not provided, but in spite of that, the attendance rates at our programs were 85% and above. So the families who did commit to it and make arrangements to get their children there, made sure that their children got there each and every day.
That's fantastic. So in the video, the kids talk about how great the teachers are. And Dr. Becoats touched a little bit on the recruitment of staff, but I wonder if either Liz or MaryEllen, you could talk a little bit more about how staff was recruited to participate in the Reach.
I'll talk about William Penn a little bit. Liz could talk about the other sites. He was committed, as I think I mentioned, to making sure that this opportunity to have this summer work and be a part of this exciting endeavor to address learning loss was open to staff. So they vigorously recruited, and they really didn't have a hard time getting people. It was really a wonderful thing. Another thing we found, honestly, is the program, I think, runs more smoothly and I think more efficiently if you have staff from the site. We have run some after-school programs where we've had to employ some folks from outside of the school site, and it's a challenge. You can do it. We had good success, but it's a greater challenge. Liz, do you have any other thoughts about that? Maybe talking about ACES building?
No, pretty much the same thing. It does work so well with staff from the school as the instructors. What also worked well, I think, we did have the request from our other site to have the site coordinator from outside the school. The instructional staff, the classroom teachers, terrific, but we did, Foundations did hire the site coordinator. I provided the professional development, the training for that site coordinator, and work very closely for the implementation of the program. But that being said, if there are teacher leaders and other teachers at the schools willing to take part as a site coordinator, we absolutely welcome that.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, the one we're just working with now, developing a contract, they have identified a site coordinator from their building, and Liz is going to work very closely with him to make sure that he understands all the critical components and can be the leader of the Reach program at that site.
So that actually leads into another question in the Q&A, MaryEllen. If there are other schools or districts who are interested in using the Reach model, you know, what is something that they would need to do?
Well, I think that there's a good, we can reach out to Liz or myself for sure to get additional information. Liz has been working on a toolkit for this because, as she mentioned in her final comments, the pre-planning is critically important. You can't just, you know, on May 15th say, hey, let's run a summer program and let's get it going and let's have all these pieces in place. There's so much back-end work and so many things and factors you have to consider, the district or school has to consider, that we can, Liz, through her tools, can help walk folks through that and provide that guidance. So I would say reach out to Liz and she'd be happy to have a dialogue with you about next steps.
And Dr. Becoats really did talk about the importance of the partnership. Could, you know, either you or Liz describe how it looks working with other schools, you know, what the unique qualities of other partnerships might look like because it's so customized?
Yeah, I'm going to start and then Liz can finish. The customize is the right word. We've run programs for we had one site that had some ESSER's money that they really wanted to use to support their special education students to make up the gaps, the learning losses. So, you know, we had to make some changes a little bit to the curriculum instructional design because we were dealing with primarily special needs students. But, you know, it worked by customizing it and supporting it and making adjustments and scaffolding the learning and the teaching for those kids. So customization is the key to this. We've had folks, as we said, who wanted to do after school. Some people want to do summertime, some want to do both. Some want to run it for all the kids, some want to actually just target certain populations. So we will customize it. It's very adaptable, this model to the needs of the school and site. Liz, do you have any other thoughts about that?
Yeah, I just, you know, starting where schools are, right? What professional development, what background do their staff? Is it fairly new staff, veteran staff? We are working with one of our partner schools where when we talk about small group instruction, teacher directed, explicit systemic instruction, that was not a familiar term that the teachers at that particular school had. So kind of where are they? What do they understand about literacy? And then really bringing in that professional development and the resources for the staff. I think that in terms of customization is really critically important, and making sure that the resources and the tools are prepared, ready for teachers. As I mentioned, you know, especially post-COVID, you know, it's, you know, very challenging. They had long days. You know, we don't want students on the computer, although we use, you know, a blended model. There's computerized a portion of that, but really emphasis on the focus on working with students in small groups. So I say that will be key. And, you know, really just finding out where the staff are, what background do they have, working with their curriculum directors or staff developers, and, you know, bringing in kind of where they are and then bringing them to individualize and make the REACH program successful.
So Shanika, I hate to put you on the spot, but, you know, you mentioned it earlier when you talked a little bit about the importance of professional development for staff. Is what Liz is talking about what you saw and at the site where you worked?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that again?
Sure. The importance, we're talking a little bit about the importance of professional development for staff and meeting the staff sort of where they are. And I was just wondering what your thoughts were about the site where you worked and how the professional development supported the implementation of the program.
Absolutely. So I mentioned this early, just briefly. Staff included not only teachers from the school, but also from surrounding schools. We also had a retired teacher who's been out of the game for some time. So that pre-program professional learning was very helpful to our staff, not only when it came to implementing that curriculum, but also revamping or figuring out ways they can be more engaged into the program. A lot of them, you know, they took the scripted, you know, material, but also made it their own, found different ways to connect with the students so that we can get the literacy techniques and strategies and things like that across.
And earlier, Ozzie, I think you talked about the attendance that you saw at William Penn School District, and Shanika, was that as crucial of an element in the program where you worked seeing kids every day?
Yeah, Shanika talk, or am I talking?
You can talk first, Ozzie. Go ahead. Talk about attendance.
Okay, what I thought it was attendance was very significant, not only for the persons who maybe had that week off before, but also I saw the attendance for other staff members as well. And that made children think every day that it was a significant situation because they got a chance to be familiarizing themselves. And it also made the parents feel better about it. That's what I think about the professional development, and people who really want to get out in the field have to be notified early in advance so they can prepare themselves as well.
Right. And what about the attendance that you saw?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Shanika.
Oh, go ahead, Shanika. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so we had about pretty good attendance rate for students. Being that it was an after school program, they were already there. A lot of the accommodations that they need to get to school was already in place. It's just building up their stamina, right? It's been a long day. Not only are they present, but are they engaged? So students, have spent a long day in school, but also they were fully engaged in the after school program. They're present, they're seeing how, our teachers are dedicated, right? They realize that not all of the teachers that they worked with are from the same school, they're from different areas. So that actually motivated them to not only, be present, but to be fully engaged.
So is data being collected on performance levels throughout the school year, MaryEllen?
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak specifically to all of the work that's being done at the school or the school district level, but obviously everyone is focused on where their kids are and how to get them to the next level. Reach is a component in those intervention and support strategies for students. Certainly school day, school time work, and the focus that they have on literacy and math and helping their children grow is ongoing. But we did work closely with William Penn, and Liz can talk to that, where kids were when we started. They were very able to share with us data regarding, for their kids and some levels. So that gave us a great starting point. Especially in a summer program when you only have 5 weeks and you start to think about planning and you want to get to those small groups as soon as you can. They were very open and giving us information on making sure that we had what we needed to help the students grow. So I think we complemented the work that was going on during the school day and school time. And again, one component in that greater effort to help the kids to succeed and achieve. Liz, do you have other thoughts about that?
No, I think you've summed it up very well. We are just, through partnerships and continue partnerships, working with a school right now. Currently, we have the list and the names of the students who were in the REACH program the past 2 years, and really working closely with that administration to follow those students along this school year to see, did they start, where they ended REACH, and how much supports do they require as much support? So more to tell on that hopefully later on.
So Liz, you talked a little bit about, choosing curriculum and making sure it's research back and places that people could find it. Because the model is so customizable, does it matter what the intervention tool is? And how would someone go about selecting the best?
Well, we think it matters what the intervention tool. There's so many programs and resources out there. It could be a real challenge to choose from. Again, as I mentioned several times, we really start with what the school has. What are they familiar with? If they have a particular program, lots of time there's an enrichment and intervention component that's never used or never tapped into. So we take a look at the current curriculum at the school. We make sure that it is evidence-based. And if that is the case, I ask the question, what are the intervention and enrichment models? Are there pieces of that? And then really build upon that, because these are, these programs are accelerate. They're, they don't have a full school year. So starting with that, and I mentioned earlier, the importance of taking a look at, different states. on their websites, because there are a list of those programs, and just reaching out to different folks that have used, because I said the list is extensive and not all are, that while they may be evidence-based, perhaps maybe not the most user-friendly or, programs that, we would recommend.
And I think there also is a national site, What Works Clearinghouse, that's been up for a
Yes.
while.
Mhm.
And so, as Liz said, the states have it. Everyone who's using their ESSER dollars, obviously they need to use evidence-based tools. So it's important to check on those sites to see what those are. But as Liz said too, you identifying which ones work for best sites might be what they're familiar with. It might be which tools, as you said, are easy to implement. And actually, again, looking at the cost factor, cost is important. And if you can get as good a quality one for this price versus this price, we help the schools negotiate that as well and take a look at that.
And Shanika, how important is that individual attention, that individual intervention?
I think that played another role in really the assessments. When students are working with us one-on-one, we're able to make an informal assessment, right? We're observing them, and actually we implemented a tutoring log. So we kept track of the skills that they are able to utilize or demonstrate during our little mini lessons or games of fun. But we also focus on where they may lack. And that also ties in with partnering with the school day. So we're sharing what we are seeing in the after school program, what we're doing to help in that moment, but also sharing that progress with the teachers to see, like I said, like how we can best support them, not only from the after school perspective, but also during the school day.
And Ozzie, we know that parents play a critical component, and clearly the success of the REACH model in William Penn School District is an indication that parents were involved. What can you describe that relationship and the role that the parents played there?
Yes, it's a significant relationship. Number one, that parents felt that if they wanted to come to a classroom to visit, that they follow our policies and procedures for signing in. And some parents actually wanted to do that, and we did allow them for a walkthrough through the building with our site directors. That was a familiar situation. Another thing was, because of some of the teachers had been in that particular school or a school they were familiar with, they felt that they could communicate much better with those teachers. And I thought that that was a significant part. And the next part would be that I think everybody was happy with the type of facilities that they had. That was instrumental.
So I had the opportunity to visit the REACH program at William Penn School District this summer, which was the second year of the program. And in speaking with some of the teachers, I realized that this wasn't the first time around. I don't know if Liz or MaryEllen, you can speak to what that sort of continuity between having the same teachers in the program year after year might do for the implementation.
Well, I would say that, it was a testament to the first year program and to the site coordinator, and including Ozzie, who was a site coordinator, as well as John Turner, who was on the film. They felt respected, regarded, and supported. And I think because of that, they really enjoyed the work. And as Liz said, we made it as painless as possible. All the resources were there available to them. It was set up for them. And I think that made them want to return. I think the more familiarity you have with the model, obviously the better it is for kids. It's a quicker startup. They know exactly where they're going to be headed and what they're going to be doing. The children may be different, but the model's the same. So as much as we can get, repeat teachers, we would certainly encourage that. Liz, I don't know if you have a thought about that.
Yeah, I think that the best motivator, being a former teacher, best motivator was seeing student results, student growth. And, unlike, throughout the school year, I think having the personal connection, the connectedness with the teacher and the student is a little bit different. You have, and we really did, Dr. Becoats kept the group's size. I think the largest class we had was a class of 14. with a teacher, instructor, and an instructional aide. So that personalized attention, and again, teachers seeing that growth, it's just a great feeling and experience to see that and share that. And I think that's why we see the teachers coming back.
Liz, may I add something to that as well? That some of the teachers are teachers of the kids who come through in the summer, and the parents communicate with them, maybe on parent-teachers nights and stuff like that. How did my child do? They ask those kind of questions, and what's prepared for them for next year. Just like you said, familiarity and personalities as well. Help communicate our kids.
We talked a lot about the literacy and math component of REACH. In the video, we saw a little bit about STEM as well. Is that something that is a part of the model in each implementation at each site?
You know, in the full day program, it's a critical component, and the children loved it. They loved that learning. They love that project-based learning. They love the hands-on. They love to be creative. They love to work in teams. All those 21st century skills really came through. So it was a delight to see. However, sometimes, like in the after-school program, when you have 2 hours or so, we've been able to implement some arts and some maybe some phys ed, as Liz showed you in the schedule, but we haven't been able to have a core or true STEM component. I mean, it was true high quality learning. The resources from the Franklin Institute in Philadelphia, they were really, really highly developed lessons and resources. And yeah, if at all possible, I would say, and I think Liz would say, it was a critical component. Liz?
Oh, absolutely. And as you said, we couldn't, in the shorter programs or the after school programs, but what we are doing this year, we did not do in the after school program last year, is we're already reaching out to some community, just planning some, mini field trips for the students so that they can get out, explore. Environmental centers are coming, to the schools, just walking around the neighborhood. So we are planning to have some of those activities in our after school, because that is, kids are very, very excited about those activities and they want to come. So, but the STEM was critically important to the full day, but to get those, because they really are project-based, a little more challenging in the after school. But what we are doing is making sure we're having those community connections and bringing in the community and a resource to the school. And this year, hopefully, now that we're out and about, going out and exploring more outside and maybe visiting some other places.
Yeah, and that was evident in what Dr. Becoats was talking about, the importance of those real world learning opportunities. So can foundations help coordinate those things? Is that something that's part of every implementation of the model? Is that something that the individual district or school site might handle themselves?
What foundations did, we reached out to the community surround. We asked for any community connections from school leaders, administrators, even from the teachers. Do you have any connections, any partnerships? We generate that list, and what we do is we contact those folks, and then we set up and schedule the visitations and the times. And I work closely with the site coordinator to do that. But again, the site coordinator being a teacher as well, we take on that responsibility. But absolutely ask them for their connections, their input, and then we will reach out and make those and schedule those visits for the schools.
And Ozzie, is that something that you saw as partners and students interacted with community partners, that it had an impact on those outside partners as well?
Absolutely, it did. Not only that, some students have only seen things on Sesame Street, and when they are seeing things out in person, or they get a chance to go out, or the people come in. I know at one of these sites where in the William Penn School District, the fire department came out after the school was over just to have the kids crawl up on the engines and stuff of that nature. So things that we do out in the neighborhood and things we do in the community are very essential to what the children will be able to do and how they would feel safer, among other things they want to do. And maybe have new careers too, by the way, children. Did
community partnerships play a role, Shanika, in the site where you were at?
In the after school program, we were really focused on just literacy, and we also had a homework component. So again, it was, 2 hours can go by so fast. So we did not, but hey, who knows what would happen in the future.
We are planning with that school, so we have a partnership, just so you know, Shanika, with that particular school, and we are already working closely with the site coordinator to schedule some community visits.
Perfect.
And I think we're going to add a theater program to that site as well for the spring. Yeah.
Yes, we're trying to connect with some local theater groups, and actually the site coordinator has a theater background, so we're very excited about that. And we're going to add that component probably nearing closer to the end of the program.
That sort of leads me to my next question. As we get close to the end of our time together, what's next for the implementation of the REACH model?
I think we appreciate, again, this opportunity to share with a national audience. It has been fairly localized to date. So we don't know. We'll see what happens. We've been growing and growing within the greater Philadelphia region. Again, gotten great feedback, and people, if they do a summer program now, they want an after school component and vice versa. So, we look forward to growing the program and continuing. One thing that was mentioned, and I just want to bring this up, I think it's kind of funny, but true. Snacks are very important for children this age. And it sounds silly, but they really look forward to it. And then we also have like little incentives. So, attendance wise, or we do have incentive programs, and they love that. So I know it sounds silly, but it's a good piece of this puzzle, and something I think people always need to consider.
Well, thank you again, all of you, for sharing all of the information on the REACH model and your experiences. We really appreciate our opportunity to share this success with the Campaign for Grade Level Readings audience. We thank everyone on this webinar for their time, and we hope that you will reach out to MaryEllen or Liz, or reach out directly to me if you want some more information about REACH. So thank you again so much. I also want to encourage you to register for upcoming GLR Learning Tuesdays webinars. You can see on the slide. Join us next week for bringing Dolly Parton's Imagination Library to every county, which will be October 11th at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time, and engage every student building community connections to expand OST access on the 11th at 3 p.m. Eastern. The links to register have been shared in the chat. Again, I just want to thank everybody for joining us today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. Have a great day. Great job. Great job.